all that mattered to us and all that mattered to them is like, can you help me move vehicles? Again, it's not like you're going to walk into a dealership 2 years from now and there's going to be no one there. Like, you still want to test drive something. You don't want to just like buy a car sight unseen from like looking at videos on the internet. And with the right context and the right training, an AI agent can answer the phone, schedule appointments, basically do everything.
A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible: Car Dealership Guy News, Uber, and Podium. And now let's get into the show.
Eric Rea on the CDG podcast. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Yossi?
Good. Our conversation about media, social media in the past 10 minutes could have been a podcast on its own.
I know.
It's a great way to start. Good to have you on, my friend. I hear you have some automotive blood in your background.
My dad had a bunch of gas stations and he sold used cars off the lots. And I think where our stories converge is I like,
get out of here.
I never took over my dad's business because it was in Canada. I want to move to the United States. So I moved to the US and studied information systems, computer science, and ended up getting back to local business and used cars and now a lot of OEM dealerships too.
Okay. So your dad was in the automotive business, right? Like you just mentioned. You got into tech, right? So there's some similar threads there. Okay, what got you into tech? And by the way, now you're creating tech for dealerships. We'll get to that too. But what actually brought you to this world?
Always wanted to do something in software. Always wanted to start my own business. And at the time, I mean, this is like 2013 when I was living in Vienna. My dad would call me like every month, and my dad doesn't know technology at all. He's like probably like your dad. He like barely knows how to use his iPhone. But he would call me like once a month, and he'd be like, "Hey, Eric, somebody just left me a 1-star review on Yelp or Google, and what do I do?" He's like, "Somebody called me an asshole on Yelp." I'm like, "Well, I can see why." But I'm like, "You have thousands of customers that like you. So like, just go get them to leave you a review and you'll be fine." And the reality was he had like 15 reviews on every review site, which first of all, didn't make him look like a good business, or didn't make him look like a legitimate business that had been around for 20 years. But second of all, like, the only people that were going online leaving him reviews were people that had felt like they got ripped off or whatever. Like people that just, you've been in the car business. Yeah. Like,
by the way, yes, it's the classic case, right? It's, you see the only the bad, the good, by the way, I'll tell you something we used to do. I used to encourage people not to leave me a 5-star review, but to write about their experience, because I knew that Google at the time would rank it higher. So I said, hey, don't feel obliged to leave 5-star, leave whatever you'd like. Just write about your experience. Truly, if there's even one thing that was wrong, chop a star. So what happened? People would leave 3-4-star reviews, but the actual review was great, and that got ranked higher. Again, I don't know how the algo works today, but it was a real issue. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, totally. You were right, because the algorithm takes into account all the content that's written, not just the star rating. And so that was really smart. So yeah, anyway, my dad, I thought if my dad and one tire shop he had sold his other gas stations. This one tire shop he had was doing like $3.5 million of gross revenue a year. So pretty good business. But I thought if my dad's tire shop has this problem, I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other businesses have the same problem. And so I got together with my co-founder, Dennis, and we were buddies in college. And I'm like, hey, this is like a week after coming back to the United States from Austria. And I was like, hey, we should start a company that helps businesses get reviews. Because the thing we realized is whether you're a dealership or a plumber or whatever, any blue collar local business, people just, unless you're a hip restaurant, people aren't going online and leaving reviews. And so unless they have a bad experience. And so we built this super simple, long story short, we built this super simple product where you just put in the phone number of the customer at the end of the as you're checking them out, and at the end of the transaction, you press send, and it would send them this text message, and then they would click this link and leave a review on Google, Yelp, or Car Gurus or wherever. And we built this thing, and we started going door to door. And people, it just started taking off, because this was 2014. 2014, we'd go into legit OEM dealerships and they wouldn't even necessarily know that their reviews were showing up right on the top of Google when people Googled their name. And that quickly changed. And so we built this product. We went door to door, and basically for the first year, for all of 2014, we would just go into these business, initially just going to any business. And then we started honing in on like OEM dealers and some other verticals. But we just would go in every day, drive around Salt Lake City and all the other cities around there and just sell, and then get home at night and build the product and do it again.
Let's fast forward now 10 years, right? A lot has changed. I mean, even when I launched my prior company, there was, digital retailing tools were, much more nascent than they are today. And it was a whole different world, right? The car business has been evolving much more rapidly than ever before, if you ask me. From your perspective, like what has changed the most if you had to compare like when you started to today, right? Where are we today in the state of automotive technology, right, that you're privy to? What has changed? Where are we at today?
Yeah, so we started with reviews. We realized that like being a point solution in any business, and especially automotive, is not the key. So we spent the next 9 years building out this huge communication platform with phones and messaging and all these different things. And today, the biggest thing is, I mean, this is what we're going to talk about probably for the rest of the episode, because it's just blowing everybody's minds, is like AI's gotten to a point where it can do the jobs of regular humans. And that sounds so crazy to say, because even 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. But like, that is, I mean, the thing is for every business, but especially for OEM dealers, it's like, at least what we hear from them right now, the two biggest things are conversion. Like you got to convert leads right now because there are fewer of them than there have been in the last couple of years. And then training and staffing. And AI, if done well, solves both of those problems in a significant way. And so that's just like crazy.
You said three big things here, which I want to dig into each of them. The first thing you said is that you are seeing, and again, you're the founder, CEO of this company, so you clearly have a comprehensive view, but you're seeing that AI is actually replacing people. So let's just start there. What are you really seeing in the market today? Like, how is this happening from your perspective?
Yeah, so great example. We have a car dealership group that works with us. First of all, we have 7,000 OEM dealers that work with us in the United States and Canada. And so we about a third of the market uses Podium in some form or fashion. And so we get a lot of data. What we're seeing, a good example is we have a almost 20 location dealer group in the Midwest. And they've been using our AI employee, Jerry, that is a BDC agent, BDC employee. And they've been using Jerry for like 9 months since the beginning of the year. And they are open, typical dealership has, a couple from like 2 or 3 up until 15 BDC reps. Depending on their size. And this particular dealership's opening up 3 dealerships this year. And their plan is to have 1 BDC human employee. And then that person will basically manage Jerry, our AI BDC employee that can handle all of the inbound leads, schedule test drives, and do so much more. So it's truly changing the way that these dealerships run and making them more efficient and helping them convert at a higher rate.
What's changed about like the state of technology that has enabled this experience to be, so much better to the point where you're saying it's replacing humans? And what I mean by that is like historically, if you think about a chatbot, right? Chatbot historically is a very low quality experience, right? It's not a human. It doesn't really answer your questions. It can give you the price of a car, but like, it's just not that sophisticated. So what has changed? Like, why do you believe that this is now like really the next frontier? And like, what's different?
Yeah. So the large language models are so much better. We've been working with, so little history. We went through Y Combinator, which I know you know what that is, but for anybody that doesn't, it's a premier accelerator, probably the best one in the world, like Airbnb, Dropbox, OpenAI, like all these companies have gone through it. We went through it in 2016. And actually, fun fact, OpenAI was in our batch. So OpenAI was in the same batch as us. But at the same time, Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, he was the president of YC at the time. So this was like his side project in 2016, OpenAI. They've done slightly better than us at Podium, but that's okay. But anyway, 2016, people don't remember this, but in 2016, Facebook, they had their big developer conference and they were touting that like the world of chatbots was like the future of Facebook. Do you remember this? Like there were chatbots for games and chat, like they basically made this huge push. into chatbots in 2016. And at the time, we were mostly doing reviews, but we were getting into text messaging for dealerships and helping them increase their conversion rate through better communication channels. And we wanted to pivot our whole company. At the time, we were the highest revenue generating company to ever go through Y Combinator. And so we were doing well. And we wanted to pivot the entire business to become a chatbot company. Like, because we're like, hey, like AI, this could be interesting and you could like be more efficient. But the reality was it sucked. Like any chatbot experience in 2016 was horrible, way worse than talking to a human. And so what's changed is like, OpenAI and others have realized that if you build these massive large language models, they can be really smart. They can be really, really good at conversing. And then with companies like Podium and others, if you can get those AI models to follow a path to a goal, like a test drive or a conversion, it basically can do the same job and probably a little better than a human.
Now, tell me about the application. So you mentioned conversion, right? That was one of the points you mentioned of within the dealership, how you're impacting. Like, what are the real applications right now that most dealers are adopting? Like, what's working? Can you quantify, like, how is it working? To give us a little more insight into that.
Yeah, so we have about 1,000 dealerships using one of our AI employees today. And we just launched, we launched Jerry, we call him, in beta in January, and then went full release in like March. But so what we're seeing is on average 30% increase up to 30% increase in conversion rate. And the reason why, that sounds crazy, right? Like if I go to a dealer principal and tell them I can increase your conversion rate by 30%.
What type of conversion? Are you talking about like sales conversion?
To sales. And here's why. It's not that the AI is so much better at explaining the cars or so much better at converting. It's just the fact that the AI employee is always on. So like 10:30 p.m. at night, I'm looking at like I'll just share an example. I have 4 kids and I want a truck. And so I want a 6-seater truck. So I want one that doesn't have a middle console in the front. So I can put one of our kids in the middle, even though I think it's a very dangerous spot. So that's a concern, but I want a 6-seater truck. And usually when do I search for cars? It's like at 10:30 p.m. at night when I'm like laying in my bed. But guess what? Like every BDC rep is asleep during that time. So the reason why that we can get such higher conversion up to 30%, and I'm not saying every dealership that works with us is getting 30%. We're seeing as we survey our customers, it can be up to 30% increase in conversion, is because the AI employee Jerry is always on. So like 10:30 at night, he knows the inventory. I can text in, hey, show me all of your trucks that have 6 seats. Which actually, funny enough, that specific question for a regular BDC rep is very difficult to answer, because they have to go through this whole spec sheet, because that's not one of the standard things that like shows up on most dealership websites. But the AI, Jerry, since he's connected to the inventory system of the dealership, he can immediately give you a list of every single truck they have on the lot and ones that are coming to the lot that have 6 seats. So that alone is creating this massive increase in conversion. And then like after hours and weekends, conversion rate onto test drives is going up to 80%.
This episode is brought to you by Uber. Courtesy transportation is no longer a nice to have, it's a need to have. That's why 80% of dealership respondents agree that providing on-demand courtesy rides with Uber has helped retain customers based on Uber's survey of 79 organizations in 2023. With Central, you can request a ride on behalf of your customers even if they don't have the Uber app. Car dealerships are loving Uber for Business because it's a headache-free solution for offering white glove service and seamlessly handling tasks like pickup and delivery of auto parts and replacing shuttles and loaner cars. Dealers can request one-way or round-trip rides, add multiple riders and locations, and even monitor trips in real time. Plus, you'll get monthly reports to keep track of everything. If you're ready to reduce the costs associated with maintaining shuttles and limit the liability of loaner vehicles, it's time to partner with Uber. Visit t.uber.com/cdgauto today to learn more, or visit the link in the show notes below.
Tell me more about the applications. Like, how do you view AI continue to be integrated into the dealership model? Right, you're mentioning right now customer support, or like the BDC with actual shoppers, right? Identifying cars, getting information. Are there any other applications right now that are big for you or that you're working on, planning on launching? Like, what are dealers asking you for? What are the problems that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so I mean, it goes back to those two big problems I think that everybody's facing right now. It's like training and staffing. Like just generally nobody wants an hourly job now in America. It's unfortunate, but like nobody wants an hourly job, and that's a lot of the jobs that exist at a dealership. And so it's training and staffing, and it's conversion. And so we started with BDC because we thought that was a really interesting way to prove out this AI concept. But then you've got revenue mining. So like the dealerships have so much data, and they do, they have teams that do revenue mining. And guess what? Like if you build an AI employee or an AI agent, and you build it with the goal of proactively reaching out and doing revenue mining activities, it's really, really good because it can access all the data. It's better in a lot of ways than what humans can do.
Take that one step further. Like when you say revenue mining, give me a specific example of like what some dealers are doing, right? Is this like, hey, Podium, go find me customers from all my customer data? Like what actually happens?
Yeah. So like a great example is like on the service side, you got warranty things. A big one for our dealerships is like leases are coming, like leases are coming due. And so going in and finding every single customer whose lease is coming due in the next couple of months, or doing car buybacks, or anybody who's bought a car 3 years ago, like those types of things, which, you can hire an agency, you can have somebody in-house doing that and like creating segments and sending out bulk messaging campaigns. But the thing is like AI has gotten to a point where you can have an AI do that, and it's really, really good, and it's always working. And yeah, it's just, it's pretty phenomenal.
You mentioned, I think you said the word warranties and somewhere there. What are you doing with just repair shop, service, body shop? We talk a lot about like the front end, like sales, variable operations, right? That comes to mind first. But what about like service? And like everything I've heard on AI on the service side has been related to communication. Is that what you're focused on? Anything more?
Yeah. So it's pretty similar to the sales side, but it's basically like, hey, people are trying to get service appointments all day long, and let's build an AI employee just like Jerry. Let's build an AI employee for the service drive that takes these messages, takes these inbound leads, and schedules appointments. And that's basically what it can do. And then, right now Podium and our AI employees do text-based communication, so email, text, other social messaging channels. But like we're working right now on giving Jerry a voice because it can, like, it sounds like sci-fi, and it still feels weird even as a software founder to talk about the idea of like a computer talking to our business, like our customers. But it's real. Like we're seeing the technology. Like I'm sure you watched OpenAI's demo day a couple weeks ago where they showed Scarlett Johansson's voice or whatever, and it's like unbelievable.
Yeah, she was just about that.
Yes. I guess it wasn't really her, but yeah, like are people gonna think it's a human? No, but like here's the thing: and this is like a thing we use at Podium. If we're gonna build an AI employee to do something for a dealership, it has to be better than the alternative current solution. So I'll give you an example. Like if you had the ability to have a massive BDC team that's available 24/7, that can answer the phone, super well trained, understands the inventory, and can schedule test drives, that might be better than an AI, than Jerry. But the reality is that's not the case for any dealerships. And dealerships are trying to cut costs. They're trying to be more efficient. And so Jerry is better. And just by the way, on the BDC side, most of our dealers find that Jerry has a better test drive conversion rate than their actual BDC reps. But that's our core principle. Like we're not going to release an AI employee that is worse than what you currently are doing as a dealer. And so on the voice side, with service specifically, like people are calling in all the time. They're making appointments, they're changing appointments, they're asking questions. And we think that with access to all the data and with the right context and the right training, an AI agent can answer the phone, schedule appointments, basically do everything that you need it to do to schedule service appointments.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned text messaging, which is, one of the oldest technologies, but such an effective tool to get in front of a human and a customer. Like we all read our text. I don't know, you probably know the exact statistics on like readership rates for text, but I can only imagine it's like incredibly high. Is that like fully integrated into your product, or like how are dealers using that, adopting that as much as a normal online chatbot? Like what are you seeing with texting and how's that working for dealers?
Yeah, we are partial to texting. That's how we started. Like we started the business with texting. We sent out these review invites. Like everybody gets text message review invites now. Like every business sends these out. I don't think we're going to go into the technology hall of fame for this, but we believe we were the first company to ever build a product that used SMS to send review invitations and solicit reviews. And so we've been text message first from day one. And even when we got into like general communication and web chat and everything like that, we had this, our idea was that live chat was never that great because of the fact that it's not usually somebody that's knowledgeable at the dealership. And so we basically have defaulted to text message as the primary communication channel for all the Podium products forever. And the reason is that's 99% read rate. People don't have like 10,000 unread texts on their phone. And we just think it's generally a better experience than live chat or phone calls for the most part. But yeah, we're huge text messages fan or huge text message fans, but you got to also do it in the right way. So like you don't want to have, if you're a dealer, you don't want the text message channel to become a spam channel, right? Where you're like getting unsubscribed, like, and now you can't even send transactional messages to your customers.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about what you're doing, like how CDK and all this, cybersecurity is just, I don't think I've heard the term cybersecurity so many times in our industry ever. And it wasn't just the CDK outages, right? Now we had CrowdStrike outages the other day, which impacted dealers and really their vendors, which, indirectly impacts them. But it's been just crazy how this has gone. I mean, to the extent that I just went and bought some like cybersecurity stocks. I'm like, all right, I got to get behind some of these like ETFs because I just think the world's getting crazy. How are you thinking about that as a founder CEO? Right, you mentioned you're working with 7,000 plus dealers, your customer facing product. How are you handling stuff like that? What are you doing about it?
Yeah, so I think first of all, for dealers, I think redundancy is super important, and I think a lot of dealerships have learned that over the last month. Like having multiple systems that you can rely on is super important. But for us, we're lucky. I mean, we're not immune to cybersecurity threats, but we're really fortunate. We've been around for 10 years, and so we're not 30 years old. Like there's a lot of software in the industry that's really old, and so cybersecurity wasn't really a big thing. And so they've got this huge amount of technical debt to make sure that they can secure their platform. And so that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is I'm a brand new company. I started a year ago, and I've got some like, AI chatbot or something like that. And I'm so lean and fast that I'm not taking into account the security of the security of my customers' data. So I think those are the two ends of the spectrum. And we're not immune, but we've been around. We started in 2014 when cybersecurity and cyber threats were already still a big thing. And so we've developed our platform in a way we've always had like a security posture, and we have a security team and application security engineers and all these different things, because we know that like there are actors out there that want access to our platform because we send out messages. We have a payments product. Like we're a product that's attractive to scammers and fraudsters. And so we take it pretty seriously, and like, there are always threats, and we're just, we have a team that manages that. But it's a huge thing. And again, back to dealers, it's not something you even really think about up until like, recent history is like, you don't even think, oh, is this vendor going to have a problem? And
yeah, like an afterthought almost, right? So I'm not saying it should be, but it's just not the first thing you wake up in the morning and you think about, right? Tell me a little bit about, if I'm a dealer, maybe I'm a client of yours now, you clearly have, really massive market penetration. Maybe I'm not, but give us a little sneak peek into what's next on the roadmap, right? So today we have these functioning bots, which are, either supplementing humans or fully replacing, right? In your case, fully replacing, other vendors supplementing or fully replacing as well. It really depends on the actual application. What's next? Like, what should I expect as a dealer on how is my dealership going to be run in the next, year, 2 years, as the pace of this tech and AI, improvements, it's just gotten the velocity has just increased like crazy. You see OpenAI releasing, new models every like 3 months or so. I mean, I can't even keep track at this point, right? But what is next as a dealer? Like very practically speaking, how am I going to be retailing cars in like a year, 2 years? What's going to change?
Yeah, no, it is wild. So couple things. So I just think it's going to be so much different than what even, people, dealers on the cutting edge, like early adopters that are adopting AI and really leaning in. We see a bunch of our customers doing that, but like, I don't even think they understand how much it's going to change the world. I mean, it's going to change our business, it's going to change your business, it's going to change every business out there. Like, it's just, the models, if they didn't get any better ever, are still good enough today that they can take a lot of the workload of what normal like hourly employees do. And all that sounds evil or like it's going to destroy the economy, but like, I think what it's doing is it's moving people up into higher level tasks. The thing that's not going to do, like, AI is not great at negotiating and selling and like creating this emotional connection with the customer. So I think the way that the cars are sold are going to continue. I think it's going to continue to come down to like a relationship business. I think what AI can do is it can help the relationship. Like it can help conversion by being quick, knowledgeable, and politely persistent. Is that what we like to call our agent? But the way it's going to move is I think you're going to have like dozens of AI employees in your business. I think you're going to have an AI employee for BDC. I think you're going to have an AI employee like we talked about for revenue mining. You're going to have an AI employee for service drive. You're going to have an AI employee for like parts. You're going to have an AI employee like on the finance side. Like, I think you're just going to have, it's weird. You're going to have like dozens of AI employees doing work for you. And you're going to have to have like a platform that tells you what they're doing. And, the other thing I would just call out is when we sign, this is like a story that's pretty interesting. So when somebody first signs up for Jerry's going to make mistakes because like we've tuned Jerry for OEM automotive, but every OEM dealer operates differently. Like if somebody asks about a certain vehicle and you don't have it on the lot, some dealerships don't want to schedule a test drive. Some, even if they don't have the car that you want, they want you down and they want you to like test drive something else because they know they can order it in. So those are two different paths. But so Jerry's going to need a lot of training. And so we basically tell our customers like, hey, how long, like just like when you hire a new employee, it takes a couple months or a couple weeks to get them up and running. Jerry's going to be the same. Like Jerry's going to make some mistakes right out of the box. But the nice thing is you can train him and he, after you train him once, he doesn't make that mistake ever again. And I think that's going to become a big thing is like training these AI employees to be specifically really good at what you want them to do for your dealership. And then, one other quick story on this. We had a dealer sign up in Southern California for Jerry, and they're already a Podium customer. They're using us for messaging and all these other things. And they signed up for Jerry, and Jerry's not cheap. So signed up for Jerry. And after 2 days, emails us and says, cancel it. Jerry made a mistake. Cancel this Jerry thing. Keep everything else. So we made a mistake and we didn't turn it off. We forgot. So our bad. But 2 weeks later, we have this partner of ours that's like a consultant in Southern California for dealers. And the dealer principal, or I think the GSM, called this consultant that was a customer of this consultant, or called the consultant that was working with this dealership and said, hey, who's putting these test drives on the calendar? Like people are showing up for these test drives and we have no idea who's setting them. And they thought it was this consultant. They thought because the consultant helps Podium and stuff. And the consultant like looks in the account. He sees that Jerry's been like scheduling test drives for 2 weeks straight, and it's scheduled like a dozen test drives or something like that. And so he tells him like, "Hey, it's Jerry." He goes, "No." The dealer goes, "No, it's like it's not that AI thing. It's like somebody's doing this because they're showing up and they're asking like they said that they scheduled an appointment." They're like, he's like, "No." He showed him in the Podium like it is Jerry, and so they turned it back on because they realized that like this thing's real deal and it's not some like toy.
Yeah, there's a lesson in there. It's it's the free trial. It always works. It's great.
This episode is brought to you by my very own Car Dealership Guy News. CDG News is here to help you stay updated on all things automotive. We're not your typical news crew. We're bringing you concise, unbiased car industry news in easy to digest formats. From the hottest headlines to podcast summaries, dealership best practices, and industry insights, we've got it all covered. And guess what? It's all free, no paywalls, just like we always promise. Hop over to cdg.news, that's cdg.news, and check us out. We're all ears for your feedback. Tell us what you need. Give us your honest thoughts. We're here to deliver real value. So don't wait. Head to cdg.news now or click the link in the show notes below.
How are dealers paying for this? Like, do you get like co-op from manufacturers, or how's this being funded by dealers?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of co-op agreements with most of the OEM most of the manufacturers. But for Jerry, there's no like AI programs yet. So it's we actually had one of the major OEMs in Utah in our office yesterday, and we were talking to them. We're like, hey, look, like, how are you guys going to create programs for like an AI BDC and an AI service drive? Because like this is happening so fast, and manufacturers aren't the fastest to like get on board all these technologies. So yeah, we have our main platform and some of our other products like our reviews product, reputation management product are in programs, but our dealers are just coming out of pocket for this right now. And we just decided, it's funny on the pricing side, you can see like outside of dealership tech, like with Intercom and other like major chat providers, they're doing like per resolution. They're charging like a certain amount per resolution that the AI produces. And we just decided to go with like a flat rate because I think our dealers want to know what they're going to pay, and they don't want to have to like do a calculation every month to understand what their bill's going to be.
Yeah. Especially when the first thing that goes to your mind is like, is my competitor going on there and running up my bill or something like that, or like, a spam message 5 times. It can get frustrating. So I get it. Like, what's the bottom line ROI that dealers are seeing then? And this, like, specific to you, it could be agnostic to the entire, AI chatbot industry, which I realize that they're all different in functionality. But what are you seeing as like the bottom line ROI, right? Because you mentioned this isn't right now being co-opted by manufacturers, right? They're not subsidizing this for dealers. Dealers are coming out of pocket, but clearly, if you work with so many dealers, clearly the return is there, right? Or else they wouldn't spend the money. And so what are you seeing as like the bottom line ROI?
Yeah, so like I said before, up to a 30% increase in actual vehicle sales, and then up to an 80% increase in test drive conversion after hours. So that's like weekends and evenings. So that's huge, right? That's huge, and that's what we're seeing. Specific customers, like we talked to a customer last week, and they were like, yeah, like Jerry scheduled 11 test drives last night. This is a multi-location group, but like that doesn't happen without Jerry. They said Jerry had helped them sell $600,000 in vehicles in the last 3 weeks. That was from their platform director. And then, yeah, like that's basically it. Like they're seeing, hey, conversion after hours is dramatically increasing. And then our ability to take a lead and convert it into a sale is increasing by up to 30%. And that's it. Like, I mean, our whole business from the beginning, even when we were just a reviews point solution, was how do we help dealers sell more cars? Because we knew, like at the early days, nobody knew who we were. We had no funding. Like we've since raised $420 million. We had no funding. We started the business with $1,500 cash. And so in the early days, when we were going to these dealerships, all that mattered to us and all that mattered to them is like, can you help me move vehicles? And with reviews, we could in the early days. That's still really effective, but I think it's more commoditized. And like every dealer knows they have to have like 10,000 reviews on Google and other places. But that's the thing.
What was it like selling to those early dealers? Like, just give us a little play-by-play. How was that like for you?
Well, at first we wouldn't even go into OEM dealers because we were too scared. Like we just thought like we would just go into used dealers at the beginning because they're easier to talk to because it's like two, 3 guys, right? And so we eventually got up the courage to go into a Ford dealership. We just decided to walk directly, like bypass every salesperson, every receptionist, just walk back and find the GM's office and just walk into his office. And so we did that. We walked in and we like just ignored all the sales reps and walked into this guy, Bill Snape, his office. And we knock on the door, his door's open. He's like, hey, what do you need? We're like, hey, we're from Podium. We came to talk to you about your reviews. He's like, okay, sit down. And so we sit down and we end up giving him a 10-minute demo of the product. And I mean, he didn't really say anything. He was just sitting there, like no expression. And so he says, hey, can you hold on a sec? And he walks out of the room. And we thought at first, we're like, I think he realized that we didn't have an appointment with him. And so he's going to like talk to his GSM and he's going to kick us out. And he came back with a check for like $4,000. And he like gives us a check. He's like, we're signing up today. This is exactly what we need. And we didn't even tell him it was like paid up front. We usually collected monthly and on a credit card. And so we were like, okay, awesome. We just pretended like that's what typically happens. And inside we were freaking out. And so we like kind of just walked out of the dealership like, hey, we'll come back.
Play it cool.
Yeah, we're like, play it cool. We'll come back tomorrow and get your team set up and get everything onboarded. We walked out and we got in the car and we like pulled out of the parking lot, and then we like pulled over like 200 yards down the road, and we're like just started like celebrating because it was like the first time we'd gone into a legitimate OEM dealer, and to like walk out with a check for $4,000 at the time in 2014 just was like super validating that we were building something meaningful.
Incredible. You're doing incredible work. So you are right now, you're really focusing on this AI tool. It's bringing lots of efficiency, better conversion for dealers. Are there any tools or products or any other ways you're currently working with dealerships? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, we're not. Okay, so we're a couple of things coming down the pipe that I think are really interesting. So we talked about AI. We talked about how we're trying to give Jerry a voice so he can talk on the phone and maybe make phone calls. And we also have a phone system we built over the last 4 years. And it's the most technical. I mean, it sounds funny because phones have been around forever, but to build a modern phone system that integrates with all of the other tools and marketing products, reviews product, messaging products that we have, it's been a huge technological challenge. And so we're still pretty early there, but our goal is that a dealership uses Podium for all of their communication, not just messaging, not just email, but like phones. We want to power their phone system and everything. And then we want to layer on our AI employees onto all of those different channels and just completely change these dealerships and make them more efficient and more effective. And again, it's not like you're going to walk into a dealership 2 years from now and there's going to be no one there. Like no employees. Like there will still be like the cool thing about what we're doing is it helps like the sales reps, it helps them sell more. It helps them sell more cars every month. And so I don't think it's going to massively change some parts of the business, but for that up funnel, top of the funnel marketing, scheduling, all of the logistical parts of running a dealership, it's going to completely change the game. And so adding a phone system that's modern, because it's also wild. You walk into a lot of these dealers that are doing, 30 million in sales or more, and they're using like an AT&T landline from like 1990. It's crazy. So we think there's a huge opportunity there.
I love it. Well, we're going to keep close track. This has been great and very insightful, man. We're going to also, I'm going to put the link to Podium and your company in the show notes below. So if anyone's interested, wants to learn more, see what it's all about, they can see below. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I just think what you're doing is awesome. I love it. The consumer side is really interesting, but then also how you're basically making transparent the dealership industry. Like you're making transparent the auto industry, and I think it's awesome. And then we're super, super excited. I think the world's going to change a lot over the next couple of years, and we're just trying to make sure that we build a product that can help dealers keep up with that.
How do you think? One quick last question: how do you think our kids are going to buy cars? Like, take me 10, I don't know how old your kids are, but take me like 10, 15 years into the future. Like, will they go to a dealership? Like, how do you think they're going to buy cars?
Yeah, it's funny because we work in a bunch of different industries. Work in, jewelers, furniture, mattress, appliance retailers, medical spas, home services. We have like 100,000 customers across all these different verticals. And it is interesting. Like so many things have already gone online. Like there's, so many things you would never think of going into a store for today. Like you just go to Amazon. But there is still this, any service, of course, like you can't get your plumbing fixed online, but like any retail purchase where it's a considered purchase, you're spending a lot of money, or it really matters that you choose the right thing. So think of, your mattress, furniture, appliances, cars. Like I think people still want an in-person experience. Like you still want to test drive something. Like you don't want to just like buy a car sight unseen from like looking at videos on the internet. So I mean, like, I think my daughter's 8. I think 8 years from now, people are still going to be going down to a dealership, or they'll be experiencing the vehicle physically in some way. Like I know there are companies out there that are like bring the test drive to you now, and that's pretty cool. But like, I just think that stuff isn't going away. That's kind of a core tenet of Podium, is that like a lot of like these, what people call blue collar industries, they're not going away. Like the technology is not going to like make them obsolete. And that's our whole thing, is like, we're going to arm those types of businesses with the technology to keep up. But yeah, I still think you're going to want to test drive a $50,000 car.
Well, you're putting your money where your mouth is, so we'll have to take it from there. So I love it. Eric, thanks for coming on. This was awesome and really insightful. It's great having you on, and we'll have to have another conversation sometime in the future after all this goes to the next level. So,
Yeah. Thanks, Dan Yossi.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.